Okay, good evening, everybody. Sorry, I kept everybody waiting. It's just back to back to back to back. I didn't have a chance to use the restroom. For those that weren't able to attend, we did do a chok today. Vayakel Day 1. It is right now uploading onto YouTube as we speak, and it'll be uploaded later onto Torah Anytime. And Mishnah Yomis we did already as well. That's not uploaded as of yet. Tonight after the shir, we will, Be'ezus Hashem, have the first rendition of Shabbos Hagadol Drasha 5784. But let's first get to tonight's daf, which is an adventure. Certainly adventure as we start the complex sugya of Tagrei Lud. And it's good that people get enough sleep so that they should be able to concentrate. As I've told my friend over here, Rich Lenner, to be well rested for a shir. We start by Lema Ketanoi, which is 8 lines from the bottom of Daf Memches Amud Beis, 8 lines from the bottom of Daf Memches Amud Beis. We're continuing to discuss this question of a down payment, whether that gives you acquires you the entire item or only connected the down payment. We are dedicated by A.B. Spry and family for Nachas from the whole family for many, many years, and by Michal Avram, who is sponsoring this Masechta that all of us should finish the Masechta, him included, of course, with Gesund. We welcome in Saba, we welcome in Eddie, Nachman Chapler, Ruben Pollack, Berish Gesseman, Mo Kushner, we welcome in Yisrael Fisher, Shimon Klein, and Stephen Holtzman. We welcome in Baruch Ian, Shelley Zeitlin, Irving Fishbaum, Yitzi Fuchs, Moshe Lehman, Aaron Swade, Abe Arbach, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Muller, and Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg here in the shul. We have the pleasure of having with us Reb Kramer, Rich Lenner, Michal Avram, and Ruvain Shannet. Jay Siegel is joining us. Aye Perlman, so nice to see. So the Gemara says, Lema Ketanoi, let's say it's dependent on the following Machlokes Tanoim. Hamalve eschaveiroi al hamashkain. Let's say I give a loan to Shelley, and Shelley gives me a piano. Shelley has pianos coming out of your nose. So Shelley gives me a piano as a mashkin, as collateral. V'nichnas shmita. And now comes the shmita. Now I gave Shelley a $10,000 loan, and his grand piano is only worth $5,000. So now Shemitah comes. The question is, we know normally Shemitah releases one from his debt. But the mechanics of why it releases one from his debt is because the pasuk says, Lo yigois, I'm not allowed to press. But if I have Shelley's collateral, I don't have to press because I have the collateral. And the idea is, if he defaults on the loan, I keep the grand piano. The question is, what if the piano doesn't equal the whole debt? Is the rest of the debt relinquished by Shemitah or not? So let's see what the Gemara tells us over here. If I give Shelley a loan of $10,000, he gives me a grand piano that's worth as collateral $5,000. And Shemitah arrives, even though the piano is only worth half, it doesn't relinquish the entire loan. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi says, if the collateral equals the loan, it doesn't relinquish the loan. But if not, mishamet, it does relinquish. Now the question is, does it relinquish the entire 10,000 or does it relinquish only the 5,000 that's not covered by the piano? My ain mishamet to come Reb Shimon Gamliel. When Reb Shimon Gamliel says that Shemitah doesn't relinquish, what does he mean? Ilaim a kinegdai, if he means that it doesn't relinquish the $5,000, Michlal Reb Yehuda Nasi Sava Lahach Palganami Mishamet, it relinquishes even the $5,000 corresponding to the grand piano. Why should it relinquish that $5,000? I don't have to press for that $5,000. Ella, says the Gemara, Mashkin do not get lamalei. Then why am I holding the security? Ella Shmami no Mayin Mishamet to come Reb Shimon Gamliel. What does Reb Shimon Gamliel mean when he says that it doesn't relinquish the loan? It means it doesn't relinquish the entire loan, the kulai. Or my Mishamet to come Reb Yehuda Nasi. What is when Reb Yehuda Nasi says it relinquishes? It means lahach palga mashkin, the 5,000 that I'm not holding security for. For that I would have to press, and for that, therefore, it relinquishes. Reb Shimon Gamliel says when you give a ravine keneged kulahu kaina, then it's for the entire loan. Reb Yehuda saver keneged kaina, it's only keneged the $5,000. Says well, that's not pshat. My ain mishamet to come Reb Shimon Gamliel. When Reb Shimon Gamliel says that the debt isn't released, lach palga denokale mashkin, he means that the 5,000 corresponding to the grand piano, that's not relinquished, because that I don't have to press for. I have the grand piano. Lach palga denokale mashkin, that's what's not relinquished. Michlal Reb Yehuda saver, Reb Yehuda says that when I'm holding a grand piano that's only for half the loan, the entire debt is relinquished by Shemitah. Even the 5,000 that I'm holding the collateral for, Nami Mishamet, that part is also relinquished. If that part's also relinquished, what's the purpose of Shelley giving me collateral? Elamashkin Nakatle Lamale. Why am I holding the security then? Why am I holding the collateral? Oh, that's only the Zikr and Dvarim Ba'alma. Just that Shelley shouldn't say, what money? I don't owe you any money. They said, what do you mean you don't owe me any money? What do you think you gave me the piano for? I don't know how to play. What do you give me the piano for? So, it's just, but it's not keneged alone, and therefore, I still have to press on the entire loan. So now the Gemara tells us a story. As Jay Siegel is joining us now. Rav Kahana, I made a bracha already, Rabbi Hussein. What happened is Rav Kahana, Yov lezuze akisna. Eddie gave him money to buy some flax. L'soifa yakir kisna. At the end, the price of the flax went up. Also, the Kamid Ravs, so Rav Kahana came before Rav. Now, Eddie bought from him $1,000 worth of flax. He gave him 500. So Rav Kahana wants to know, what is he allowed to back out of? Amalei, so Rav Kahana, so Rav tells Rav Kahana, B'mai dinikitas zuzei, the $500 that you got to give him the flax. Havlu. The other 500, dvarim ninu. That's only words. And words backing out doesn't show that you're not trustworthy, and therefore now that the price went up, you could back out. Di'itmar, dvarim, Rav Amar, if you renege on words, that doesn't show you're not trustworthy. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, if you made up with Eddie that you're selling him $1,000 worth of flax, you can't back out. Because otherwise it shows that you're not trustworthy. So the Gemara says, how could Rav say that you could back out from words? Rabbi Yehuda says, what does it mean in the pasuk hin tzedek? It says in the pasuk you should have hin tzedek a righteous measuring vessel of a hin, and you should have ephah tzedek, and you should have a righteous ephah. Now, a hin is 12 lug, and an ephah is 72 lug. So if you have to have a perfect measure, even if it's big, 72, then a smaller measure of 12, you surely should have to have perfect. Why does it have to say also a hin tzedek? If you already need an ephah tzedek, so of course you need a hin tzedek. We don't darshan it a hin, but darshan it hein. Your yes should be righteous, v'lav shalcha tzedek, and your no should be righteous. In other words, you should keep your word. Amar Abaye says, no, that's different. That means that you shouldn't say things that are not sincere. That you shouldn't say one thing and mean something else. But here, Rav Kahana meant to sell it with Eddie. Eddie paid for half. The price went up. So now Rav Kahana wants to back out because the rest doesn't make sense. Meisvei, the Gemara says, how could Rav say that going back on an arrangement doesn't show that you're not trustworthy? We learned, Reb Shimon Aimer, Afal Pisha Amru Talis Kaina Dinner. Zav. Even though we say that when you do Mashiach on the talis, on the merchandise, so then you have to pay the gold, but the Ein Dinner Zav Kaina Talis, just because he paid the gold, that doesn't mean you have to give over the talis, because we said that you have to do the Mashiach on the merchandise. That's the halacha. Aval Amru, Misha Paramanche Dara Mabel, Manche Dara Flugger, he who punished for the generation of flood and generation of dispersion, who acidly param and Misha ain't Ibid Vidiburai. He's going to punish somebody who doesn't hold up on his word. Now, it finishes over there, and if you just gave word, not that you gave money, you just gave word, so it says, Ein Ruach Chachamim Noichei Menu. If you back out of just your word, the sages are not pleased with you. So how could Rav say that by words, that doesn't show that you're not trustworthy? So the Gemara says, Tanoihi. It's a machlokes Tanoi. The Tanan, Ma'aseh Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya, there's a famous incident, we have this in several places in Shas. Ma'aseh Rabbi Yochanan ben Masya, she'amar lebnoi, he told his son, Sei uscha lanu poyalim. He told his son, we need workers. We got to get people to clean our cars. So, so he went and he promised them lunch. And he came to his father, my child, even if you serve them tongue and crepe zuzettes and everything, it's not enough. You can't say just lunch. The Klal Yisrael is Mamlechas Kahanim B'Goy Kaddish. You're going to have to give them, duck riblets and a tomahawk steak, whatever Rich eats for supper, right? Say the Gemara, Shehem b'nei Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. They're the children of Avram Yitzchak Yaakov. Ela achelo yaslu b'melacha, before they start working, say ve'emelahem, go and tell them, Al menashe ein lochem alai ala pas v'kitnis b'vad. I only have to give you bread and legumes. Some bread and lentils. But wait a second. If you hold that words show untrustworthiness, like Rabbi Yochanan, then how could he tell them to renege? He already said that I'm giving you a good lunch. Says the Gemara Shani Hasim, there it's different. The workers themselves knew that it's subject to the father's approval. The pa'alim gufayu loisamko daitayu. They didn't rely on what the son said. My timer, why? Because maybe yade, they know da'alavuch samach, that it has to have the father's approval. Says the Gemara, then why did he say before they start working, even after they start working? Even if they started working. Says the Gemara, no. Because if they started working, then vaday samchei datayu. Then that means that they definitely figured that it was binding, because they figured that he reviewed it already with the father. Amru Meimar Amakame Davua, they must have said it in front of his father. V'nichalei. Says the Gemara, Mi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. Did Rabbi Yochanan say that if you renege on your words, that shows that you're not trustworthy? I, V'amar Abba Babachana Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ha'ima lechaveiroi matana ani noisin lach. If you tell to your friend, I'm going to give you a gift, Yachal Larzabai, you could back out. So the Gemara says, Yachal Pshita. You back out, that's obvious. Elamutter Larzabai. Rather, it means you're allowed to back out. So you see, Rabbi Yochanan says, even though you said something, it's not showing that you're not trustworthy to back out. Amar Papa Moide Rabbi Yochanan b'matana muetes. Rabbi Yochanan admits that if it's a small gift, where a person said that I'm going to give you a small gift, there you're not allowed to back out, because a person relies that if he told me he's going to give me a Danish, then he's going to give me a Danish. If he tells me he's giving me a shas, I know he might not change. He might change his mind. So there he doesn't rely on it. And achinami mistavra, and it's reasonable to assume this way. Achinami mistavra. The Amar Rabbi Avo, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. For Rabbi Avo says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Yisrael she'amar leben Levi. If let's say let's say Baruch says to a Levi, Kur meiser yeshlach biyadi. I have a kur of meiser for you. Now, even though a kur is a lot, it's 30 sa, but it's not considered a big thing. It's not considered a big thing because he has to give it to he has to give it to a Levi. So just choosing this Levi is not considered a big gift. So therefore it's binding, and therefore Ben Levi Rashi La'asais Trumas Meiser Amok Macher. Even before he receives it from Baruch, he could assign Trumas Meiser from somewhere else and give it to the Kai. Now, it's good if we say that Baruch can't back out because it's a matana mu'etes mishumachi rashi. That's why it's allowed. But if he could back out, amai rashi, why should it be allowed? Then, if Baruch gave Trumas Meiser for somewhere else and he ate that stuff, he's going to be eating tevel. Says no, hakabamai skin, it's no raya. Hakabamai skin and kigain shenotlu mimenu. It's talking where the Levi took it from Baruch, and then deposited by him. Now, since he took it from Baruch, it's already binding. I'm going to have to stop here for a moment. I'll be right back. Just hold the cameras and everything. Chachma Barbeini Chalun Chalun Galav Yadol Fankisek Fadecha Shem Yefaseach Echad Mehem Ayusasem Echad Mehem Yefshel Eskayim Lam Lefnecha Filu Shachas Baruch Atah Adonai Reifi Kolosar Mafli Lasos. Yeah, we're not like Paro. We don't make believe we don't have to go to the bathroom. So, so here the Gemara says, as you'll excuse me for interrupting. So the Gemara says it's talking about that that Baruch gave the Levi the kur of Ma'aser Rishon, and then he redeposited it by Baruch. So then it's his already. And therefore, because of Ifkidei Atzlai, and therefore then he could take off Trumas Ma'aser from it because it's already his. Says the Gemara, Ihachi, if that's what it's talking about, then Ema Seifa. Nasna Leben Levi Achar, if he gave it to a different Levi, after Baruch tells it that he's giving it to Levi Katz, he gives it to Levi Klein, then Ein Lo Yavlav Ela Tarumas. Then Levi Katz could only have a complaint against Baruch. But if he already gave it to him and he redeposited, then how could Baruch give it to a different Levi? Since the first Levi took it and then redeposited it, it's talking about that he didn't take it from Baruch. Shmamina, so that's indeed a good proof that by a matanamu etes, where it's a small gift, you're not allowed to renege on it, like Rabbi Yochanan said. So now let's get another case. Ha'u Gavra, the Yov Zuzei Ashim Shemei. What happened is Marshall paid me money for sesame. L'seifa Yakar Shim Shemei. At the end, the price of sesame went up. So, Hadrabahu, I retracted, V'amalei, and I said to him, Les lanu shim shmei, I don't have sesame, shkol zuzech, take your money. No, it's, Marshall gave me money, he gave me, $500 for the sesame. Sesame went up to 1,000, so I didn't want to sell it to him. So I told him, take back your money. Lo shakal zuzeh. Marshall didn't take back the 500. He says, we're going to go to court on this. And he didn't take back the money. In the meantime, Ignav, the money got stolen. So now the question is, who's responsible for that money? So also the Kamei Rava. Marshall came before Rava. They met before. So Rava knows what he's dealing with. Amalei, so Rava tells Marshall, Kevan de Imre Lach Shkol Zuzeich, since Rabbi Weiss told you to take the money, V'loi Shaklis, and you didn't take it, Loi mi boi shemis sachad olayavi, for sure, Rabbi Weiss is not a paid watchman, El afilu shemichinam nami loyavi, but he's not even a unpaid watchman, because he told you to take back the money. Amulei Rabbanan, so Rabbanan said, but wait a second. Since Marshall paid, even though he wasn't Marshall the Sum Shem Shemei, but since Marshall paid, then I'd be liable to the curse of Mishapara. So Amulei Rabbanan l'Ravava b'ay l'kbu alei Mishapara. Rabbi Weiss would then have to get the curse of Mishapara b'dar Mabel b'dar Aflaga, should curse somebody that doesn't honor, his commitment after he gets the money. He says, yeah, that's true. The bottom line is Marshall lost his money because I told him to take it back and he didn't. The fact that I told him to take it back and I didn't honor the sesame, I take a liable to Mishapara. Amra Papa, Amali Ravina. So Rich is looking at this story and he's very skeptical because he knows, as we welcome in Jack Silverman, he knows that I'm not going to let myself get walloped by a curse of Mishapara. He knows that. I'd do it to Marshall in a second, but I wouldn't do it to me, right? So, Amali Ravina said to me, Lididi Amalei Hahum Rabbanan. To me, this story was told by a certain rabbi, Rav Tovas Shmei, and his name was Rav Tovas. V'imre la Rav Shmuel bar Zutra Shmei. And you should know that this man's qualifications are that he would never go back on his word. If you gave him all the treasures in the cavities of the world, he wouldn't change his words. So you have to know that you got the whole story wrong. I had this Maisa. Hahu Yuma, that day when Marshall came, Afanya de Mali Shabsa happened. It was Friday afternoon. V'havi Yasivna, I was sitting. V'asau Gavra, and a man came, Marshall, V'koya Bava, and he was standing by the door. Amali, he said to me, Islach Shum Shemei Lizvuni, do you have sesame to sell me? Do you have sesame to sell me? As we turn to Daf Mem Tes Amud Beis, you have sesame to sell me. Amalei loy. So I told him no. Amali, so Marshall told me he had money, and it was right before Shabbos. Amali lahave hanach zuzei b'pikodin gabach. Let this $500 be a deposit by you. It's almost nightfall, and I'll be stuck with the money. I can't carry it around. Imre lay, so I told Marshall, ha beisa kamach. The house is open to you. Now notice, he didn't tell him, I'll watch it for you. He just said, the house is open for you. Oh, svina bebeisa, he put it in the house, v'ignav, and it got stolen. So also the Kamei Rava, once again, Marshall comes before Rava. Amalei kol ha beisa kamach, a declaration the house is available to you. Loi mi boy, it's not a question. Loi mi boy, it's not a question that he's not a shomer sachad or loyavi. Ela afilu shomer chinam nami loyavi. He never told him that he's going to watch it. He just told him that the house is open if you're stuck. Amrlei v'amur rabbanan l'Rava. Then how does it fit in the part of the story that the Rabbanan said to Rava, that the person who said it and messed around with Marshall is liable to Mishapara. Here there's no case of Mishapara because there was no sale. V'amali, so he says, you're right, that part of the story never happened. Bottom line is, either way, Marshall loses out. Now, says the Gemara, whoever has the money in his hand, which literally means that if I give Marshall money for his convertible, so Reb Shimon says that once I give Marshall the money, he has the upper hand. He could back out, but I can't back out anymore. The cash is king. Cash is king. Says the Gemara, Tanya, within the Brisa, Reb Shimon, Emasai bizman shakesef va'peiris biyad moicha. That's where the money and the convertible is by Marshall. So Marshall has the upper hand. Aval kesef biyad moicha. But if I gave the cash to Marshall, or peiris biyad loikeach, and Marshall delivered me the convertible, Eino yochel lachzabai, he can't back out. because the money is in his hand. It says the Gemara, biyadai. The money is not in the buyer's hand anymore. Biyad meicheru. Because the value of the money, that means the convertible is in my hands. So since I gave him the money and I have the convertible, nobody could back out. So the Gemara says, pshita, the deal is finished. Marshall is making kazatzka. He finally got rid of the clunker, and then he has 16 others to sell. Says the Gemara, Amar Rava, what's the chiddush? Hachab b'maya askinen. Here's, it's so interesting. Marshall is selling me an Encyclopedia Britannica. Right? It's an heirloom that he got from his grandfather's dog. Anyway, he's selling me a Britannica for $100. But what's interesting is Marshall is renting my loft, my attic. And he's living in my attic. In that case, the Gemara says that once I give Marshall the money, nobody could back out. Because why did we say that you need Mashiach? Because we're afraid that the fire might break out and Marshall won't protect my Britannica. But since he's living in my attic, if a fire breaks out, I'm going to anyway go there to save my attic. So then I'll save the Britannica. Let's see it inside. Where my attic was rented to Marshall. So time am I taking Rabbanim Shicha? Why do Rabbanim say that it's not binding until I pull the Britannica? Because otherwise, maybe a fire will break out and Marshall won't protect my Britannica. But since it's in my property, I'm going to go save my property anyway. I'm going to go there anyway to save my property. So therefore, it's acquired even without the Mashiach. Ha'u Gavra, the Yoav Zuzei Achamra. What happened is I gave money for wine. Now sometimes the governor could requisition whatever he wants. So I gave Marshall money for wine. I gave him $500 for a barrel of very good Cabernet. Very good Cabernet. L'saif Shama, at the end I heard, the Kaboy Leminseve de Be Parzik Rupila, that Parzik, the governor, was going to requisition that wine. So I wanted to back out. Amalei, so I said to him, Hovli Zuze, give me back my money. I don't want the wine. So also the coming to Rav Chisda, they came before Rav Chisda. Now Rav Chisda said, we know that the halacha is that it's not binding until I make Mashicha on the wine, or Hagva on the wine. So Amalei Kederach Tiknu Mashicha b'Meichrin, just like the Mashicha is a protection for the seller, that he could renege on the deal until I do Mashicha on the wine, Kach Tiknu Mashicha b'Lekuchas, I could renege on it also until Mashiach is done with the wine. So therefore I could tell him, look, I didn't make Mashiach on the wine yet. I heard that Rupila is taking it, so it's not worth anything to me. Give me back my money, and Marshall has to give back the money. So we see that Rava, Rav Chisda, everybody is consistently ruling against Marshall.
Just drop the wine really quick. It would have been easier.
Well, I don't want to touch it. Now.
Use a straw.
Okay, this Gemara separates the men from the boys. Now we start the sugya of ribbis. And again, I ask Hashem, this is not from my easiest Gemaras. I consider this to be one of the hardest sections of Shas. So I ask Hashem for the siyata d'shmaya that in the schus of the rabbim, I should be able to teach it to you properly. Yeah, yes, amen. It's interesting. Hashem has a good sense of humor, giving Rav before Pesach to teach this Gemara while Rav is busy with a lot of other things. I said that it's a nace that I was able to do the chok today. It's interesting. I ran down here at 6:10. I said I had appointments of women upstairs at 7 and men downstairs at 7:10 to do mechiras chametz. I'm going to have to do this within that amount of time. So I managed to finish the chok at 2 minutes to 7. I ran upstairs, and then ran downstairs, then did Mincha, then did the Mishnah Yomis, now I was doing the Daf, and the Mitzvah Hashem, right afterwards, the Shabbos HaGadol Drush.
I thought I was busy.
So now, Marshall woke up 10 minutes ago. Now,
Hashem's sense of humor. Thanks a lot.
Now, ha'ina, cheating or overcharging, which is a sixth. Now, the halacha is that if, who would do this? Okay, Marshall. I just picked it out of the hat, Marshall. And if Marshall would overcharge a sixth, then the deal stays, but he has to return what he cheated. If it's more than a sixth, then it's bittul mekach. Then it voids the whole sale. If it's less than a sixth, it stays. There's mechila. That's the halacha. Now, ha'ino arba kesef me'esim arba. Overcharge is 4 out of 24 because 4 is a sixth of 24. So if you overcharge that, you would have to return that to the buyer. If you undercharged it, you would have to give extra to the seller. So I know arba kesef, 4 pieces of silver, me'esim v'arba kesef l'sela, from 24 pieces of kesef, which is a seller, shtus l'mekach, a sixth of the merchandise. Now, let's say I claim that Marshall defrauded me. Can I get it back any time, even a week later? Says the Mishnah, ad mosai mutar lahachzer. Till when could I go and ask for a refund? Ad kedei sheyira l'tager, until there's time for me to show it to a merchant, oy l'kroiva. If I already had that time and I didn't claim it, I can't ask for a refund. Hayra Reb Tarfin belud, Reb Tarfin in Lud said, ha'ina, overcharging is only shmeine kesef me'esim rabba, is only a third of the sale. I don't know, somebody is saying the Gemara under their breath. Please don't do that. Again, in Lud, Rabbi Tarfin taught that ha'ina, overcharging, is shmeine kesef me'esim v'arba, is 8 pieces of silver out of 24, which is a third. shlish lemekach, a third. V'samchu tagre lud, and the merchants of Lud rejoiced. We could charge more, we could mark it up more. However, the Rabbanan said that the people have the whole day to ask for a refund. Amalahem kol hayoym mutar la'achzor. They have the whole day for a refund. Amru lo yaniach lanu Reb Tarfon b'mekayin menu. You know what? We're going to have people coming for refunds the whole day. Then, you know what? Leave the law in its place. V'chazu l'divrei chachamim, that it's only a sixth, but it's only until they could ask a relative. Now, when it says a sixth, there's two ways to look at a sixth. There's a sixth of the price, or a sixth of the value. Now that's not going to make much sense until we see examples of this. But let's read the Gemara first. Itmar, Rav Amar Shtus Mekach, it's a sixth of the purchase price, Shaninu. Excuse me, Rav Amar Shtus Mekach Shaninu, it's a sixth of its value. Bishmul Amar Shtus Mois Nami Shaninu. We learned that it's even a shtus of the price, not of the value. Now, what does this mean? Shavi shita b'chamsha. If, let's say, Marshall sold something that was a value of a 6 for 5, so therefore he overcharged the 6. Or shavi shita b'shiva. No, if he sold, excuse me, shavi shita b'chamsha, if he sold something of a 6 for 5, so he undercharged the 6. Or shavi shita b'shiva, or if he sold something with 6 for 7, so he overcharged the 6. Kuli amalei pligi, the basamekach hazlina. We go after the value, and therefore he undercharged or overcharged the 6. Vainav. Ki pligi, where shavi chamsha b'shita, where he sold something that was worth 5 for 6. So he sold something that was worth 5 for 6. Or Vishavi Shiva, he sold something that was worth 7 for 6. L'Shmuel da Amar Basar Moyis Azlinan. According to Shmuel, that says we go after the purchase price. So then the purchase price, where he sold something for 5 for 6. So over there, the purchase is 6. So he overcharged him a 6. Where he sold something worth 7 for 6. So he undercharged him a 1/6 of the purchase price. So the Shmuel, the Amabasar Ma'is Azlinan, Aidi v'Aidi Oinahavi. They're both examples of Oinah. L'Rav, the Amabasar Mekech Azlinan, where we go according to the real value. So Shavi Chamsha B'Shita, where he sold him something that was worth 5 for 6. So it's of the value of the value, since it was worth 5, and he charged him 6. So that's of the value which was worth 5. He overcharged him more than a 6, because when it was 5 for 6, so since the value was 5 and he charged him 6, he overcharged him more than a 6, and since he overcharged him more than a 6, there we said that voids the sale. Bittul mekachavi. Now, what's exactly the amount when he sells something worth 5 for 6? What's the amount that he's overcharging him?
20%, 1/5. Instead of 1/6, it's 1/5.
But why is that? If its value was 5 and he charges him 6,
Going by the value.
so it's 1 extra of 5. Yeah, so it's a fifth.
20%.
Right, 20%. So if it's 20%, that's 1/5.
Yeah.
So that's already bittul mekach. Right? That already voids the sale. It's not just ainah. Shavei shiva b'shita, if it's worth 7 and he sells it for 6, so then according to your reasoning, then he's only undercharging a 7th.
Right.
Undercharging a 7th is not even ainah. Mechila havi, it's mechila. Shmuel says, Ki amrina mechila bittul mekach, heicha deleka shtus mishnei tzadim, where it doesn't come out a 6th from either way, from the purchase price and the value. Aval heicha ika shtus mitzad echad, but if it's a 6th from one side, ainah havi. It's just overcharging, and it's just that you have to return that amount.
What's mechila?
Mechila means that if it's overcharging anything less than a 6, then it's considered that it's regular business practice. It's an acceptable markup. You know, like you do 700%. Now,
Because of credit card fees.
okay, now, Tanan. We learned in the Mishnah, ha'ayna dalit kesef me'esim v'arba kesef l'sel. 4 out of 24, shtus l'mekach, a 1/6 of the deal. So the Gemara says, what's the computation over here? My lav de zovin shovin esrin be'esrin v'arba. Isn't it talking about where he sold that which was worth 20 for 24? Now that would be it would only work according to Shmuel. It would only work if we compute with the purchase price. Or shmami no shtus mois nami shaninu, like Shmuel. Because if we would go according to what it was worth, right? So 4 out of 20 would be a 5th and not a 6th. Says, well, it's not talking about that. It's talking about the Zavin Shavi Arba, the Zavin Shavi Esrim Arba Esrim, where he sold that which was worth 24 for 20. Oh, so there it's a shtus of the value, because the value was 24, so a 1/6 of the value is 4, so he undercharged him, he sold him something 24 for 20, therefore he undercharged him 4. It says in that case, who's being cheated? The seller. Minas ana moicher. The seller is being cheated. Ema seifa ad masai mutalazer. Till when could he ask for a refund? Where he could show it to the merchant or to a relative. That's only the buyer. The seller could always ask for a refund if he undercharges. But the bottom line is, so we see that we're talking about the buyer being overcharged and not the seller. Ella, no, this is the case. The Zavin Shavi Esim Rabba Esim Smanya. What happened was his marshal sold 20 something that's valued 24 for 28. So there, it's a 1/6 of the value that he overcharged. It should have been 24, and he charged 28. So 4 is a 1/6 of the value, and that's why it's Ainah. Tanan, another case. We learned in the Mishnah, Hoyra Rabbi Tarfon belud. Rabbi Tarfon paskined in lud. Hoyna shmeina eser me'eser rabba kesef lasela. The overcharge is 8 out of 24. Shlish lameka, a third. So my lav, isn't it talking about the zav and shavi shitzerei be'eser rabba, where Marshall sold something that's worth 16 for 24? So the eighth is only if you look at the purchase price, like Shmuel. Says the Gemara, no. Marshall sold 24 for 16. So he undercharged an eighth of the value. Says the Gemara, but then we're talking about the not to the seller. Minasana, who would be then cheated? The Meicher, he undersold. A Maseifa, Amalahem Kol HaYomo Talaza. You could retract the whole day. You could ask for a refund the whole day. The buyer, so obviously we're talking about over here that the buyer was cheated, not the seller was undercharged. Ella, like the same way we resolved it yesterday, Ella dezavin shavi chavdalid betlosin usrein. It's talking about where Marshall sold me something that's worth 24 for 32. So there, he overcharged 8, which is a third of the value of 24. So we see that it's a third of the value, and not necessarily like Shmuel, a third of the purchase price. Rabbi say we're underway over here with this challenging sugyas. I want to point out that tomorrow, I don't know, but if I'm able to, I'm going to shoot tomorrow to learn 2 blot, so that we don't have a nightmare Matzi Yom Tov of 3 blot. Right? So that's what we're going to shoot for tomorrow. I'm going to try to prepare the 2 blot if I have success. So you can daven for me. Now we're going to do the Shabbos HaGadol drasha. Those that will be here in Fairways should not attend this drasha because they'll hear it Emirat Hashem on Shabbos. But if you're not going to be here on Shabbos, then you're welcome to stay.